Okay, we're gonna take a look at what the spirit showed me. So spirit wanted to show me something and showed me this. So I'm just gonna show you just like I was shown. Basically, it's about polar opposites, about how energy of polar opposites will actually like change in, but the North Pole changed in the South Pole. You'll see what I'm talking about. This is extraordinary. This is utterly extraordinary if you ask me. Okay, so this is north. And then I'm going to draw a circle. And this is Earth, obviously. And I'm going to put south down here. So there is a North Pole and a South Pole. And this applies to spirituality and everything. In fact, everything is. Okay, I'm going to draw the equator here. The equator is dividing the northern hemisphere from the southern hemisphere. Okay, equator. And we're going to look how north and south, or N and S for short, turn into each other. Well, it starts out as all north on the front. So we look at all north as N and N. Yeah, it's north because it's fully north, okay? Now, there's two digits here. Let's look at the two digits. Two digits are representing two different poles. Okay, so it starts out as north, then it goes to south-north, then it goes to north-south, and then it goes to south-south. So right here at the equator on the northern hemisphere is where south-south actually, it's actually fully south on the north side, you see? It's due south at the as far as it could get before it crosses over the equator. It's actually south-south for the north. So it would be north, south, south. Okay, then we're going to go from south up to north, because south goes up to north, north will go down to south. So south will start the same principle. South starts down as S, south, south, then south, north, then north, south, and then north, north. So the north for the southern hemisphere is right for the equator. So the south, north, and the north, south, they're right at the equator there, okay? All right, so then Spirit tells me that the north represents northern forces. And let's call them Yankees. When the spirits tell me this, I had no idea what Spirit was talking about. I'm just doing it like Spirit said it. South forces, southern forces, which would be Confederate. I'm like, okay. Okay, so what the Spirit's trying to show me here, obviously I'm starting to guess, is, oh, you're trying to show me how the northern forces or the southern forces, how they merge into each other, how the north becomes the south becomes the north, and where they meet in the middle. Right, but there's a lot more to it than just that. So then the Spirit says, what's this right here? Ask me what this is. I said, SS. And the Spirit says, what's the SS? I said, well, it's a car. It's a badass car that you can romp on the gas, and it's a fast-ass sports car. Okay, what else is the SS? And I'm thinking, well, the only thing I think of is the SS division, the Schatzstufel or something. I don't know how to say it, but it's the SS divisions of the German SS divisions, the Waffen SS. So, right, the Spirit says, right, Waffen SS. Are you kidding me? You're saying Waffen SS? Yeah, write down Waffen SS. So the Spirit tells me write down Waffen SS. And I'm thinking, that's strange. Okay, so you've got northern forces, the Yankees, and the southern forces, the Confederates. Oop, hang on. Let me turn this light back on. Okay. And the southern forces, the Confederates, which represents the year 1850 to 1854. And then you're talking about Waffen SS. which is representing 1930s and 40s. So those are 90 years apart. That's interesting, I'm thinking. And also, I'm thinking, okay, so what we have here, the Spirit's trying to show me, there's three branches of fighting forces that are military. And the military, and ultimately, the Spirit is trying to compare the Civil War and the Confederate forces and the Yankees with the Waffen SS. And I'm thinking, really, that's interesting. I'd like to see how you're gonna compare the Waffen SS to them. Okay, so yeah, linking these up. Yeah, the Spirit says yes. I'm gonna show you how they are the same thing. Okay, so the Spirit says the Waffen SS are Germanic Anglo-Saxon. I don't even know how to spell it. In fact, I don't need to write it all out. Germanic Anglo-Saxon. You've got the Northern forces, which are Anglo-Saxon too. So just AN for Anglo-Saxon. And these are Anglo-Saxon. They're all Anglo-Saxons. They're basically, these are it's British Americans, because we came from Britain, England, and so then we became America. For the most part, there was mixed a lot of races in our culture, but and they're all Anglo-Saxons, okay? But there's more than that. The Spirit says there's more than that. The Spirit says the fighting force of the Waffen SS is a spirit that got into the Germanic Anglo-Saxon body in World War II, 90 years after it was in the Confederate body. And so I'm like, okay, well, how was it in the Confederate body? Let's look at it. SS. SS stands for South-South. Understand, I'm not saying that the Waffen SS would stand for South-South, but it does make sense that it certainly could, because understand that South-South means all the way south. It's totally one way. Like this Confederate force is South-South, so the Confederates moving up start out as South-South, and the Northern Yankees starting down move down as North-North, and they slowly turn into each other. There's a lot more than you might even think about this. It's very interesting. So the Spirit now tells me, let's sing. What, you want me to sing? Yes. Okay. And then, and the Spirit's telling me to sing these. SN, NS, SS. So I go down. Yeah, and I did this for a while, but I'm just going to make a long story short and show you. And none. Basically, if you, it could say non or none, but and none. A nun. Basically, Spirit says yes. So when I say a nun, and none, yeah. A nun, yeah. The Spirit's giving me confirmation. Yes, write down nun. Like a nun, a Catholic nun. And then I'm like, in none, yes. In none. Okay, in none. So that's two ways. I'll put the in none over here. In none. That's two. Well, can you think of anything else that NN says? And none, and none, and none, and then. Not really. It's it. Okay, so it pretty much says in none or in none. A nun, a Catholic nun. So yes, that's what the Spirit says. That's exactly what I want you to know. Okay, SN, is in, SN. It's also sin. Is sin. Is in, so I'm going to put here is in and a sin. Well, that's, you try to figure it out. Those are the only two words that really fit. Now, in is, ns, in is, so in is, and in is the only really thing it says, so I'm going to put it on both sides, and it is. And then SS. Okay, the only thing, okay, the SS division is the SS, but what else could this say? Assess, like discover, assess, discover. I don't even know how to spell assess. That's interesting. Maybe like that. I did it right. Assess. I'm not a very great speller. Okay, so assess, which is the SS. So it's saying, right, assess the SS. We're going to discover something about the SS. Or about the spirit of the SS fighting forces of Nazi Germany and how they compare to the forces of the Confederacy. Because we're talking about North and South poles. North represents mom. South represents dad. Oh, no way. You mean there's only two? Well, there's only a everybody has parents. There's always a mom and a dad. There's two poles on earth. It's mom and dad poles. Well, the Spirit says yes. There's nothing else you can compare north to south to. North is mom and dad is the south. Oh, what do you mean? Well, dad is in Nun on the north side, or mom is a nun. This is what the Spirit's trying to show me. Mom is a nun, yes, and dad is in Nun. On the northern side is in Nun, but is actually mom. Do you see? If this is mom, N equals mom, then it's in mom. So if it's dad, it's in Nun, mom. That means northerners start out as mom, because north is mom, south is dad. Understand the spirit of the Yankees was a mother, and it could ultimately work its way to a father. So let's look at it. The northerners would start out battle as a NN, a nun or in Nun. Some Yankees would be in Nun, which means they didn't have anything. They were in nobody. They had no spirit, or they had their own spirit and no one else's. So they didn't have compassion, sympathy, or empathy. When they're fighting, they didn't want to have compassion, feel sorry for their enemy. I'm in Nun, man. So if I have to kill people, I'm not going to be crying about it. It has to be done. I'm in Nun, so I could go fight a war and I don't have to be so suffering. Right. And the other choice is a nun. So a nun means you've got the spirit of mom, and the soldier riding home to his mom, who's got his mom, is going to be a soldier that will have every emotional problem because he's not in Nun. He's a nun. So he's writing home, Mom, I really, this war is scaring me and I can't, I'm scared in battle. I want to run. Ultimately, they're having every issue. The boy or the soldier that has his mother energy, and the Yankees, well, they ran a lot. Understand the Yankees were famous for retreating, running away, not wanting to fight. Ultimately, the fighting spirit of the Civil War was in the Southern Confederates, big time. So the Spirit's trying to show me this. And I'm like, wow, okay. So the and nun or a nun would be is in a sin, in is assess the assess. So in nun is in is assess. So understand, by the time it gets to here, as the North is fighting the war, they start out as mom, then their dad and mom, then their mom and dad, then their dad and dad, which means that in the beginning of battle, the Northerners would start out as N and N. And by the time you're probably in battle, an hour or two, they've transgressed towards the South, and they're ultimately dad, which means they start as mom, and they end up as dad. So they become more ruthless. The Yankees become more brave and ruthless as the battle starts. It takes a while, so they're not so brave at first. They're ultimately not so motivated. They got the mother spirit twice. They're gonna warm up to battle, and once they get into it and they've been fighting a while, then they can be SS. So let's look at the Southern forces or the Confederates. They start out as SS. They're motivated. The whole story of the whole story of how the SS was so motivated and everything. They were just so badass. I'm gonna do part 2 because these have to be under 15 minutes. So I'll see you in a second.